guys, Big Mac School here again today, and welcome to the first ever Warhammer Thoughty K. Now, this is the first of what is hopefully going to turn out to be a weekly show, where I just talk and, express some of my thoughts on the Warhammer Thoughty K universe. So, let's get started. Say a quick shout out to both Who's at Doom and the Lone Ranger, who this thoughts video, was inspired by a couple of videos I've seen of theirs recently. So I'll put links in the description below to their channels, and watch away, guys. So as this video is coming out a day after the release of Fall of Cadia, there's only one thing really on my mind that I want to talk about in a minute, and that is 40k end times. And let's not beat around the bush or anything. 40k end times is happening. The time of ending is what it's been referred to as in some of the fluff of recent codex releases, recent supplements and stuff like that. It's always being referred to. It's happening. There's going to be a change. Now, whether that change takes the shape of a completely new game, similar to what happened in Age of Sigmar, or just an updated version of the current game, that remains to be seen, and that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. So I've just got my notes down here, so I'll be glancing down quite frequently to see them. So yeah, as I said, the hints are all there. In recent codex releases, the LR codex releases, mention of the time of ending in all the timelines they have in the codex releases recently. There's constant reference to as we approach the time of ending and stuff like that. And also another big indicator is the fact that we are now in the year 999 in the 41st millennium. So the game's called Warhammer 40,000, so that's in the 41st millennium. And as soon as that year ticks over, is it going to be called Warhammer 41,000? I don't know, it might be. It might just remain Warhammer 40,000. But I think they see that as an opportunity to sort of, Games Workshop being they, see this as an opportunity to sort of not get rid of all the fluff and everything like that, because there's great success with the 40k fluff, but I think they see it as an opportunity to advance the storyline and sell a lot of stuff really, because we'll keep buying it. People who are into the fluff really like the stories that are there and everything, and it's just an opportunity to freshen things up and to come up with new story arcs and stuff like that. So yeah, another thing, do I think a name change is likely? I think it's probably likely, yeah. The danger could be if they come up with a name that I think is being bandied around a little bit, something like Warhammer Age of the Emperor, something like that, Age of Darkness. There's already been an Age of Darkness. So I don't think they'll do Age of Darkness. But the danger with that is, in my mind, for someone who's just brand new to the hobby, coming into a Games Workshop store, seeing Age of Sigmar and Age of the Emperor, let's say for argument's sake, the danger with that is it's too confusing. Warhammer 40,000 or Warhammer Age of Sigmar are two separate things to me. It's easier to differentiate between the two, but when both games are called Age of something, that's potentially quite confusing. Although they could see it as a chance to call it Age of the Emperor. Let's work on the basis that they're going to call it Age of the Emperor. I think they could see that as basically a chance to really simplify the rules in the same way they did with Age of Sigmar. And another thought about the rules in Age of Sigmar is that people think there's very few rules to Age of Sigmar. What there is a 4-page rule book, and then you can buy the General's Handbook, which gives you points values for units and stuff like that, and a slightly more formal way to structure your games for tournaments and for stuff like that. But what people don't realise is, with all I can't think what they're called in Age of Sigmar, with all the data sheets, they have loads of special rules on them. Like all the special rules you'd get in a unit in 40k. You might have a unit with the fear special rule and stuff like that. The weapons have special effects on them, and so there's still a lot of rules, but you only really have to know the rules for your force. You only have to know the rules that you're going to be using in the game. You don't have to know all the rules in case something comes up in the game. So it is still streamlined compared to what it used to be, definitely. But it's not as simplistic as people think it is. So, in my mind, going more closely to the Age of Sigmar rule set wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing at all, because it'd be a massive streamlining of the rules, but the game can still be really complex. So that, for me, wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. The name change, go back to the name change to round this little section off. They could call it Age of the Emperor, they could call it Age of Ending, or whatever age they wanted to call it. They might not call it Age of anything. But I think what's likely is they'll give it a name change anyway, but I'm just not sure what that name change is going to be. Moving on from that now, I'm going to talk about, from a fluff standpoint, what is going to cause the time of ending. The big indicator is that chaos is going to cause the time of ending, and if that's the case, I think it's likely that we'll see, similar to what happened to fantasy when it became Age of Sigmar, we'll see a warp-affected alternative reality kind of thing, where maybe chaos will flood into the galaxy, and the warp and the galaxy will merge and become one thing. So that gives you a whole new generation, if you like, of fluff and far more possibilities than they have at the moment with taking the story down new roads. Now, it could be a bit of a distraction technique that they're using in all the supplements and that at the minute. The Fall of Cadia supplement, and of course prior to that the Wrath of Magnus Warzone from this supplement. It could be a distraction technique that they're throwing chaos in there, and then the Tyranids could cause the end of the galaxy, basically. Whilst the Imperium and Eldar are distracted by chaos, Tyranids could flood into the galaxy, and then that would lead to a different twist, I'd say. If Tyranids flooded into the galaxy, what would then happen with the mortal realms? How would they escape the Tyranid threat? Because High Fleet Leviathan, High Fleet Behemoth, all the High Fleets, coming into the galaxy and basically taking over far more territory in greater numbers than they ever have done before. I would suggest that in that situation, what all the races of the galaxy might do is find a way to exit the galaxy. It's as simple as that, exit the galaxy, and then that could be a way for them to relaunch something like Battlefleet Gothic, because the journey across the void of space between galaxies is where we see a greater increase in these massive intergalactic battles between ships, and therefore Battlefleet Gothic could then be relaunched. Whether they call it Battlefleet Gothic or not, I'm not sure, because I think it was called Battlefleet Gothic originally because it was in the Gothic sector of space where it was taking place, whereas this would be Interstellar Battlefleet. So they could do something like that to help them relaunch Battlefleet Gothic, the Specialist Games division. They don't have to do that though, of course. But yeah, with the Tyranids coming into the galaxy and overrunning the galaxy, the races of the galaxy, the Eldar, the Imperium, Eldar, Orcs, they could all flee to another galaxy. Orcs could just follow them basically because they like fighting and they want to follow them for a fight to a new galaxy, and then that opens up possibilities like slightly different physical elements. The physics in a different galaxy could be different. Things like that. It could be basically like where a galaxy where the warp is far more in effect, has a greater effect on reality than in our own galaxy. So, you know, there's two possibilities really, to summarise. Two possibilities for the end times, I'd say. One is chaos, one is Tyranids. If chaos causes the end times, then I think it's likely that the warp, the immaterium, will flood into reality, and then it'll merge and create a new, you know, Mortal Realms style setting for the new edition or the new game, depending on what it ends up turning out being. And if the Tyranids entered the galaxy in great numbers and caused the end times, then that would lead to potentially a new galaxy being the setting. So, you know, there wouldn't necessarily have to be that much change in the storylines and stuff. It could lead to you know, greater interaction between factions and stuff like that. And that's leading me on to my next point. So my next point is Grand Alliances. Now, in Age of Sigmar, you obviously have the Grand Alliance of Chaos, Order, Death, and Destruction. Now, that wouldn't really work in 40k, in the 40k universe, because where's the Death? You know, is that Eldar? Sorry, not Eldar. Is that Necrons? I wouldn't really call them Death. So I've come up with a proposed 4 Grand Alliances, if you like, for the new 40k universe. And my Grand Alliances would be Chaos, Hate, Madness, and Reason. Now, Chaos would obviously have the Chaos Gods, Chaos Space Marines. So you've got, just alone there, you've got 9 different factions of Chaos Space Marines. That's just the original legions. And then you've got the 4 Chaos Gods. But to that, I'd potentially throw in the Tyranids in there as well. Although Tyranids cause a shadow in the warp, and they're not supposed to actually draw power from the warp and stuff like that, I think Tyranids are kind of, they're that different to the rest of the galaxy that I think they throw them in there with the demons and with their as a chaos faction, in the same way that they have done with Skaven. This is potentially, of course, you know, I've heard no rumour of it or anything like that. It's just a thought, really. You know, they could do that in the same way that they put Skaven in with the Chaos Gods in the Age of Sigmar universe, or Mortal Realms. So Chaos was one, and then the next one was Hate. Now, Hate would basically be the Imperium. There's a lot of factions currently within the Imperium that hate all Xenos. With what's happening in the Fall of Cadia books and the bits that I've read, they are getting help from other races. The bits that I've read in White Dwarf, I don't actually have Fall of Cadia, but they are getting help from other races currently. But I think an easy way to separate them into their own separate faction, and I think the Imperium has enough variety that you could separate them into a Grand Alliance of their own. I think just call that Hate, and that's Space Marines, Imperial Knights, Sisters of Battle. Now, this would be overcomplicating it, but you could just put certain Space Marines into there. So Death Watch, they hate all Xenos. Black Templars, they hate everything. They crusade against. They hate the witch. That's what they hate. Sisters of Battle, what do they hate? Chaos. I can't remember now. And you know, you could just put certain elements of the Imperium into there. Certain Imperial Guard, maybe, and certain parts of the Inquisition. But I think that would overcomplicate it. So I just put all of the Imperium in Hate, basically. And Madness, so Madness covers Orcs, Necrons, potentially Tyranids. If they didn't lump the Tyranids in with Chaos, potentially throw Madness in, throw Tyranids into Madness, in that their motives are too hard to understand, and Orcs only have one motive, and that is they've got like a a primordial urge to fight. Tyranids have a primordial urge to feed and reproduce. Necrons, they're lumped in with madness for the fact that I think in the recent Necron fluff, in recent codices and stuff, they're basically, a lot of them are going mad because their minds are that old. Their minds and souls and consciousnesses are that old that basically they're losing all the marbles. So that's who I'd have in madness. And then reason, you'd have Eldar, Dark Eldar and Harlequins included, and Tau. So they're the 4 reasonable races in the galaxy. Dark Eldar will work with anyone if it benefits them. Eldar, much the same way, will work with anyone if it benefits them. If they're seers, read the future, and the best possible outcome for a certain scenario is to kill all humans, then they'll work with orcs to do that, and Harlequins will do that as well. And then Tau, because Tau are I think they're more diplomatic than the Imperium. Now, I don't know a lot about Tau fluff, so I may be completely wrong with that, but they will welcome humans into the fold. They'll keep them at arm's length, but they'll welcome humans into the fold and absorb human worlds into the Imperium if the world is willing, basically. Not into the Imperium, into the Tau Empire, if the world is willing. Now, they may have to forge a new path in a new galaxy or in a warp-affected reality in order to rebuild a Tau Empire. Or if, let's say the Tyranids were the ones to actually cause the end times, a likely casualty is the Tau. Now, I'm not saying they take them out of the game. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, fluff-wise, they'd take a battering, so they'd have to then work with other races in order to survive, so they'd become less about the greater good, or less about the greater good as in their sort of near communist regime of absorbing different cultures, and they'd be more willing to integrate with different cultures rather than absorbing different cultures. That's a few thoughts on potential grand alliances, or whatever you might want to call them. Now, moving on from grand alliances, but staying within a rules parameter, I want to talk a little bit about keywords from Age of Sigmar. So the keywords in Age of Sigmar, you might have seen the War Scrolls. That's what they're called. You might have seen the War Scrolls, and at the bottom of the War Scroll, at the top it has like the stats for the weapons and stuff like that, number of attacks, and it's got a little circle with movement, toughness, save, and something else. And at the bottom of the War Scroll, it has a little box, or a big box, depending on what the unit is, and it says all the different keywords. So if something's Grand Alliance Chaos, it'll say Chaos in there. If it's a Khorne model, it'll say Khorne. It might say Berserker or something else like that, or Hatred or something. I think Keyroll, if they did completely change the game, the keywords, if they did completely change the game of Warhammer 40,000, I think the keywords will play a big part in that. And that is what would potentially make these Grand Alliances flexible. So I put Imperium into an alliance of their own, and that was Hatred. Now that might seem strange, but with keywords playing a big role, it may be that someone like Deathwatch would have keywords like hate, Space Marine, Imperium, and Xenophobe or something like that. So the Deathwatch wouldn't want to work with any aliens, and that would make them therefore. I'm not saying there would be an allies matrix. I think they'd go more towards a Grand Alliance system, but it would make them less likely to work with Xenos races. So the Deathwatch could potentially work with Chaos Space Marines or something like that, but they would never work with, or there may be some downside to them having them in the same force as, say, Eldar or Orcs or Tau. Whereas an army like Imperial Knights, they'd be Grand Alliance hate, so they'd have hate as a keyword. Imperial Knights, Imperium, and something like Monster. And the Monster keyword may infer some other kind of special rules. So therefore Knights could fight alongside Xenos, but yeah, the Deathwatch wouldn't, or would be less likely to. So I think potentially this is a chance for Games Workshop to encourage people to build more fluffy lists. Now, there's combinations in Age of Sigmar. There's people constantly coming up with new combinations and things like that to make more competitive Age of Sigmar lists. But I think people have now gotten a grasp of the fluff. Excuse me, my throat's getting a little scratchy. I think people have now sort of embraced a more fluffy way of building armies. So you've got your Grand Alliance Destruction, you've got Orcs, Ogres, Giants in there, or Oruks. One thing I'll touch on now, I think they've written the word Oruk, and they intended to just pronounce it quickly. Oruk. Just sounds like someone from the West Country saying orc almost. And Elf, just say it quickly, Elf. So it's a way they can trademark certain races, Elf, Oruk, but it sounds almost the same, so it's... anyway, getting back to what I was talking about. So yeah, keywords playing a greater part in the game than even in Age of Sigmar. So Deathwatch wouldn't want to ally with aliens. So if they did this, Games Workshop would be trying to encourage people to come up with more fluffy lists. Keep all the Eldar together with a little bit of aid from the Tau. Now, if they kept the codexes and everything like that, that would, I think, create a little bit of uproar, because Eldar and Tau are obviously very good in the current edition of Warhammer Thoughty K. So, if they were able to easily ally with each other, people wouldn't like that at all. But I think the key thing would be to, when they or if they do simplify the rules and streamline the rules a lot, I think the key aim for Games Workshop will be to address the balance issues in the game. Now, 40k will never be a balanced game. Age of Sigmar isn't a balanced game, but the way the rules for the game are set out now for Age of Sigmar, I think people are more happy with that than within Fantasy, the Warhammer Fantasy game. And yeah, so that's basically this video over now. I've just kind of ended on a strange note there, just brought it to a really quick end, but I just wanted to get some thoughts out there on what could come after these 40k end times. Let me know what you think in the comments below, or feel free to do your own thoughts video, and post a link in the comments below if you want. It's a really interesting discussion topic for me at the minute. I like to speculate, and I'd just like to say as well, although I went to the Warhammer excuse me, although I went to the Warhammer World Open Day on the 2nd of January, I've not got any inside information or anything like that. I barely talk to people when I go to things like that, although that's kind of what you're supposed to go for. But yeah, I just thought I'd get some thoughts out there, get something off my chest, if you like, really. And I hope you like the new show. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Let me know what the audio is like. I just realised I've recorded a 25-minute video here and I've not checked the audio, so I probably should have checked that before I recorded the whole video. Let me know what you think. This one's going to go up on a Sunday, and I'm going to try and keep to one talking show every Sunday, basically. And the show is, as I said at the beginning, Warhammer Thoughty K. That's Thoughty, Thor. How do you spell Thoughty? Well, Thoughty is not a word, so I can spell it how I want, but it's basically thought, as in thinking, Thoughty K instead of 40k. Very clever, I know. Anyway, guys, thanks very much for watching, and I will see you on the battlefield.